Madam Speaker, the Honorable Acting Prime Minister, Honorable Cabinet Ministers and Assistant Ministers, Honorable Leader of Opposition, Honorable Members of the House. It is a privilege for me to deliver my second maiden speech in this august House, and I wish to firstly thank His Excellency the President for his most gracious speech during the opening of Parliament for this new term. Madam Speaker, I join my colleagues who have done so before me in congratulating you on your election as the Speaker of Parliament for a second term. I also congratulate the Honorable Veena Bhatnagar for being elected as the Deputy Speaker of the House. I wish to also congratulate the Honorable Prime Minister for his win in the 2018 elections, paving way for the Fiji First Party to democratically form the Fijian government for the second time. There are many reasons why I joined the Fiji First Party, but two of the most important ones are the visionary, inclusive, and compassionate leadership of the Honorable Prime Minister and his belief in the capabilities of women in our nation. His passion for progressive development, leaving no one behind, has been the cornerstone of government service. Today, we see the highest number of women serving as ministers and assistant ministers in his government upon the invitation of the Honorable Prime Minister. Your own appointment, Madam Speaker, as the first woman speaker in the Fijian Parliament also validates that point. On that note, I wish to also congratulate all women who sit as members of this august House today. Fiji has reached great heights in terms of women in Parliament now. We have women like Andi Losalini Ndovi and Mrs. Irene Janarayan to thank for paving the way for us. In 1966, Andi Losalini Ndovi was nominated to be one of the first lady members of the Legislative Council, later elected to Fiji's House of Representatives in 1972, 1977, and 1982. Also served as the government whip in the very first session of Fiji's newly constituted post-independence parliament, and became a member of cabinet in the portfolios of urban development, women, and social welfare. Mrs. Irene Janarayan, on the other hand, won a seat in the Legislative Council in 1966, going on to serve in that capacity for quite some time. She also served as the Minister for Indian Affairs and as a senator during her political career. Madam Speaker, women like this have left an indelible mark on the generations that followed, which continue to see women in Parliament and in positions of national leadership, and as high as Deputy Prime Minister for Mrs. Taufa Vakatale and Andi Kwinimbavandra. We are blessed to have their legacy to look up to, and knowing that women also have a key role to play in leadership at national level. Today, we have 19.6% of this Parliament made up of strong and articulate women leaders, and I'm confident that more will follow after us. We as a Parliament must continue to strive towards the aim of increasing the number of women in Parliament after every election until we reach gender parity and beyond. The Fiji First government has as one of its tenets the principle of meritocracy. We believe that women can get a seat in this august House on our own merit because we believe in the competency and resilience of Fijian women. We believe that if given the right platform, Fijian women can reach greater heights. We don't believe in temporary special measures, which only serve to foster the false belief that women need a lower eligibility bar and special considerations if we are to get into Parliament or other positions of leadership. The Honorable Prime Minister is absolutely correct when he stated on Tuesday that as a nation, we still have a lot of work to do to achieve gender equality in the House. The onus is therefore on us as parliamentarians, whilst we have this golden opportunity to do all we can as lawmakers to ensure that the issues that touch on the lives of Fijian women are addressed. We must also ensure that we put in place policies within this august House which guard against one of the age-old challenges faced by women all over the world in relation to sexual harassment of women in the workplace. Madam Speaker, gendered stereotypes and views have caused a huge gap in the opportunities and treatment between men and women in our society, and it is government's and my personal ambition that this gap be narrowed as much as possible through the work of my ministry in strong partnership with non-government organizations, civil society, UN bodies, faith-based organizations, and community leaders during this term. Madam Speaker, I feel like we are going through a revolution as a nation, a gender equality revolution, which has largely been propelled by the gender-sensitive laws and policies of the Fiji First government, and fueled by the excellent work of civil society, non-government organizations, faith-based organizations, community-based organizations, and the like, diverse in form and shape, but united in the aim of gender equality and the empowerment of women and girls. The thing is, Madam Speaker, gender equality needs the changing of mindsets. And to do that, we need a concerted effort. All of us have a role to play. We may be sitting on different political platforms, but gender equality and ancillary elements of sexual harassment, empowerment of women, respect for women, and gender stereotyping transcends politics and lies at the heart of why we as a nation still have a long way to go to reach gender parity. It lies at the heart of why we as a nation are still struggling with our national statistics on gender-based violence. Mindsets need to change. There's a real need for society to look beyond our dresses, our earrings and necklaces, our shoes, our hair, our bags, our makeup, and to instead focus on our merit, the reason why we wanted to join politics, the message we have for aspiring female politicians, the challenges we faced on our journey to Parliament, particularly during the campaign period, our own aspirations as members of Parliament, issues that one would normally expect to be asked of new politicians on the day of swearing in as members of Parliament. And therein lies the role of the media in shaping public perception on gender stereotyping, on gender equality, and other issues which, when combined, continue to drive our national statistics on gender-based violence upwards. Of the many influences on how we view men and women in society, media is one of the most powerful. Woven through our daily lives, media inculcate their messages into our consciousness at every turn. A fair representation of women leaders in the media and by the media is extremely important, and it is my hope that locally this role will be treated with greater responsibility and that they refrain from promoting stereotypes that perpetuate gender discrimination. The objectification of fashion policing of women is sadly not just what we used to see in the entertainment magazines anymore. Must women really be scrutinized for how we look rather than our leadership skills, decision-making abilities, contribution to nation building, and how we think? More should be done to present women as leaders and role models in the media and to abandon stereotypes. I call on the local media to re-evaluate the way they represent Fijian women parliamentarians in this new term, because your articles are influencing a lot of minds out there on their perception of women in leadership. Women also have a big role to play on this march towards gender equality. For us female members of Parliament, who now have the humble privilege to be members of this august house, the onus is on us to always put our best foot forward when we serve. Aspiring female politicians are watching. Let us always depict for them the virtues of a great leader, of honesty, of integrity, of competency, of respect, of humility, of compassion, encouraging them that this is indeed a calling that they can and must aspire to. It is our duty as members of this august house to call out instances of gender stereotyping, of sexual harassment, and of gender inequality, as and when it happens, because if you can deal with such issues at this level, then what hope is there for the rest of this nation? The loss we face as a nation when we leave half of our population behind is far too great, and I feel it is our duty as parliamentarians to ensure women's overall empowerment and that the economic and political participation is harnessed. Madam Speaker, traditionally maiden speeches are to thank those who have helped us along the way to get to Parliament, especially those who have imbued in us with the notion of service in public life. I thank our Heavenly Father, God the Almighty, for his enduring love and guidance, and for my unwavering faith in his plan for this great nation, putting the Fiji First team on this side of the House to continue to lead this country for yet another term. I thank the Honorable Prime Minister for the role he played in getting me here in the first instance. A Prime Minister who genuinely wants to see women in leadership positions and make sure that the vision becomes a reality through his appointments. In this quest for the empowerment of women in our nation, gender-sensitized leadership is so important, particularly because men still make up the huge majority of leadership at national and at institutional level. On that note, I would also like to acknowledge the enlightened leadership of the Commander of the Republic of Fiji Military Forces, Rear Admiral William Naupoto, and the huge strides that the RFMF has taken under his leadership to encourage capacity building of military personnel in gender and human rights. And as late as last week, advocating against violence against women and children through a themed approach for the Sukuna Bowl. I thank you, Commander. And I call on the heads of such other institutions to work with my ministry in advocating for gender empowerment within the institutions. My wonderful family, my husband who's sitting in the public gallery, and our 3 children, Vasiti, Ditui, and Tu, who are watching from home, always been by my side throughout this journey. I thank you. There are 3 strong ladies at home who have helped me discharge my duties as a mother and housekeeper throughout my last term in Parliament. Liku, Seru, and Bu, I thank you. My siblings and your respective families for your unwavering support, my extended family, my nephew Pau and other nephews and nieces who have contributed in one way or another in keeping the wheels of family life churning even in my absence. I thank you. I also thank Ropati Rakwita, Delani, Melindrewati, Neo, and Bunangoneali in particular as members of my campaign team building up towards the 2018 elections. I also thank the Nakovadake Development Trust for assisting in my campaign on the eve of campaign blackout. Your support is acknowledged, and I thank each and every one of you and your respective families. Today, I also think of my deceased parents, who taught me values I hold dear to this day. Values of faith in the Lord Jesus Christ, of speaking the truth no matter what the cost, of honesty, integrity, and sheer hard work. They also taught me to be proud of my Itauke heritage and Vanua obligations that came with it. And in the spirit of that heritage and concomitant obligations, they taught me to respect the diverse ethnicities and cultures around me, to be caring, compassionate, and to empower those who are vulnerable in society, to keep my mouth shut if I had nothing nice to say, but to instead be the change that I wanted to see in people. They taught me that where there is a difference in opinion, nobody really wins when there is confrontation, lies, and offense, but to instead look for a solution that brought unity. Now, more than ever, Madam Speaker, we as members of this august House need to be the change that we want to see in our nation. A nation united and richer because of the diverse cultures and ethnicities we have. A nation that finds happiness in the truth and not lies. A nation that is selfless in service and is compassionate and caring of those who are vulnerable in society. And that needs to start here in this august House. As members of Parliament, we need to portray the change that we want to see in our nation. Let us be more responsible in the way we make statements in this House. The whole country is watching and listening. Let's not lie about things that matter to our people, things that we know will bring about racial discord and vilification. Let us instead articulate our issues better so we on this side of the House can have a better understanding of where you're coming from. Statements like, and I quote Honorable Mbulanauda in his maiden speech, Itauke people must remember that the Fiji First Party is here to slow down our education, deprive us of our employment, empty our pockets, deprive us of our income and opportunities to become dependent all the time on the government freebies and lollies, make us slaves in our own country and bury us alive, unquote. Such statements are irresponsible and takes the honor out of honorable. Please articulate yourself. How has government done that? I must also take this opportunity to refer to the attempt to justify the loss of Itauke land in Denarau and Momi as a land swap instead of a land sale. The point, Madam Speaker, is this. Itauke land was lost for good. We can call it what we want. The fact remains that Itauke land was lost forever from Itauke landowners. As an Itauke, Madam Speaker, we have a connection with our ancestral lands. It is a connection that is intrinsic to our identity as Itauke people. It identifies us, it defines us. This connection transcends the commercial value of land. So if you take our ancestral land away from us and replace it with some other land of equal commercial value, or even greater value, it's not the same. The intrinsic value that every Itauke has with ancestral land is lost when that land is lost to them and their future generations forever. So yes, that land swap was allowed under the law that existed at that time. Our point is this: if we really cared about the intrinsic value and the connection that the Itauke people have to their ancestral land, then Section 28 of the 2013 Constitution should have been part of our laws way back. It was only the Bainimarama government in 2012 and 2013 through the Constitution. It was the Bainimarama government that brought in the prohibition of Itauke land swaps or sales or conversions or whatever we want to call it, protecting forever the intrinsic value of Itauke land to Itauke people. So instead of preaching about the false notion of loss of Itauke land, I, for one, would love to hear a new tune from the opposition. A tune that talks about how we can empower the Itauke people to utilize our land for our benefit and the benefit of this great nation. Madam Speaker, I also take this time to thank my Assistant Minister, Honorable Vina Bhatnagar, for her support in the work that we did at the Ministry for Women, Children, and Poverty Alleviation in the last 2 years. A special thank you goes to my Permanent Secretary, directors and staff of the Ministry of Women, Children, and Poverty Alleviation for their unwavering support in achieving strategic goals of the organization. To Inise, Penny, Anushka, and my ESU team, I thank you for all that you do. Last but not least, I thank those Fijians who voted for me, who enabled my being a member of this August House for another term. I may not know who you are, but this I tell you, I will do my utmost to ensure that the faith you have placed in me is not wasted. I thank you most sincerely. As a ministry, we have just launched our 4-year strategic plan to map out our work for the next term, with a team that is ably led by my Permanent Secretary, Dr. Josefa Korrivueta, and the 3 innovative directors for women, for social welfare, and for poverty monitoring. I have no doubt that the ministry will be able to discharge the mandate of government of the current financial year, and indeed for the next 3 as well, in empowering women, children, the elderly, those living with disabilities, and those living in poverty. Once again, Madam Speaker, I thank each one that has been a part of my journey so far, and I look forward to another term of service to the Fijian people. I look forward to valuable debates in this August House and prosperity for all Fijians. May you all have a blessed Christmas, and may God bless us all. May God bless Fiji. And I thank you, Madam Speaker.